this week, what can we do about chocolate prices and coffee prices and olive oil and sriracha and wheat and, whatever else I actually eat. But first, I'm Quinn Emmett, and this is Important Not Important. It's science for people who give a shit. Hit subscribe right now in your podcast player or your YouTube thing to get this essay and also my conversations with really the world's smartest people who ask, what can I do every single week? You can find the email or web version and links to everything at importantnotimportant.com or right in your podcast or YouTube show notes. And now, today's big thing, food. Look, I don't really have a sweet tooth. I have a chocolate chip cookie tooth. Some backstory. My mom makes the greatest chocolate chip cookies on earth. I think they have some oatmeal in them. We all eat them right out of the freezer. I know. But also, I am wildly privileged because my wife makes these other cookies with orange zest. They're incredible. Orange zest. And look, yeah, sometimes I get pastries involved. Some coffee cake with the crumbs on top. Sure. But gummy worms and that shit? No, thank you. Peanut butter M&Ms and Justin's dark chocolate peanut butter cups smuggled into a movie theater are basically as close as I get to candy. And yeah, a little piece of 80% dark chocolate to num 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 while I watch spaceships boo 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 at each other after the kids go to bed, nestled under my little quilt as a feels gummy is already at work turning off my brain. Sure, you betcha. A little treat. Here's another treat I adore. Coffee. But I'm not a caffeine junkie. Not like you, at least. I drink exactly 2 espressos a day or a small cold brew over about 1 billion pieces of ice. Sometimes I have a little fancy matcha green tea, like the one with the toasted rice in it. Amazing. But as much as I enjoy the taste of coffee and tea when I don't leave it to steep for more than 2 minutes, I mostly use these things as a delivery vehicle for a specific amount of caffeine, which is my favorite performance-enhancing drug, which means I can't do too much, too often, or it won't work that way, or I'll become dependent on it. But of course, with 3 ravenous children and life, a small daily dose has become required to produce and record these essays, or parent, or read, or run, or swim with them, or away from them, or breathe. Look, we've all got our little dependencies, right? Our soft spots, our treat yourself delicacies we can't live without. And over the past couple decades, we have thankfully become more conscious of where and how these are harvested and by whom. We've grown used to seeing fair trade and I guess single origin labels and other things that tell us we're consuming them for the world and for ourselves as consciously as I guess we can, right? Grown by small farmers in the global south with fewer additives and shit. Here is a specific coffee and chocolate memory that I thought of when I was writing this. I visited Bruges on a train, which is fucking great, about 19 years ago. Oh, fuck. And look, this little city was as advertised. It is delightful. It was delightful. It probably still is. There's all these little streets and cafes with treats, and with every delicious little cappuccino you order, you get a little chunk of delicious chocolate on the side while you're eating on this little street. What a life. People live in this place every day. The setting and the pair of these things are perfection. They are timeless. Or they were, because unfortunately, both of my little treats are basically twice as expensive as they used to be because of climate change. Mostly because of climate change impacts, like drought and or torrential flooding and the accompanying pests and diseases. And of course, deforestation and illegal mining. Anyways, What's your version of coffee or chocolate? What's your guilty pleasure? So, here's why we're talking about this today. The magnificent Katharine Hayhoe swears that the first, best, and easiest thing you can do about climate change is to talk about it. And spoiler alert, it is our queen, Katharine Hayhoe. She's exactly right. The good news and the bad news about blowing right past 1.5 degrees is you don't have to argue about whether climate change is real anymore. We don't. Your Uncle Gary can suck it with his global warming is natural and pandemic bullshit because he simply doesn't have a leg to stand on anymore. It's the hottest year in 2,000 years, Gary. All of which means, though, we really, really do have to talk about it. But it's easier than you think. You don't need to brush up or be an atmospheric scientist or a marine biologist or a journalist. I'm not any of those, or many other things. You don't have to actually casually bring up the obscene ocean temperatures, different types of air pollution or microplastics, the collapse of insurance markets as we know them, or how unprepared we are for climate migration, or the canals and river shipping drying up. Anyways, why don't you have to bring up all that shit? Because of coffee and chocolate. I have been told by reputable sources, so my wife, that this beat of mine, the existential one, means I have developed the ability to be the bummer in any conversation. And she's not wrong. I like to set the record straight. Sometimes it's not the time or the place, but I'm getting better at that. But also, Katharine Hayhoe, TikTok, isn't it always the time or place now to talk about climate change or public health or pandemics? What I think my beloved wife's really trying to say is that there's always a way to talk about something like climate change. Because, again, like public health, which is literally what it sounds like, you can't avoid it, climate change touches everything, including coffee and chocolate, including peaches, including avocados and air conditioning. I would bet $1 bazillion that most of you have enjoyed some version of coffee, chocolate, and or an avocado in the past 48 hours and probably around other people who are doing the same. The conversations we need to be having are already happening all around you. You just have to slide right in. Now, don't be a bummer, but do help people you love understand how and why everyday life is changing, who is doing it to us, and how the remaining obstacles are almost all political and or about greed. You've got some technical challenges, but look, once you've set the stage, you get to tell Nancy and even Gary, who loves liberty and thus would actually love distributed solar, all of the many measurable ways we can already get started unfucking the whole thing together. It's already going great, but we got so much more to do. It is well past time to actually comprehensively appreciate our most favorite little treats. For example, as we wrote about and talked about a couple months ago, 6 months ago, I don't know. Coffee, which is a slave-produced drug, which creates the exact conditions it alone solves, from your biological addiction to deforestation, which catalyzed the Industrial Revolution and all of Western culture and economics as we know it. Now, I describe these in such loving and honest detail because, if you are new here, I will do just about anything to meet you where you are and explain how to give a shit about the world we inherited and, most importantly, the new one we can build. Look, meeting people where they are, with their morning coffee or afternoon coffee or night coffee, doesn't mean taking your foot off the pedal or settling for a less radically better future. It means figuring out what people already give a shit about and then helping them contextualize and do something about it. But, so let's do an example today. Fuck it. We're here. Coffee and chocolate are applicable to just about everyone on the planet. So let's try those on for size, right? So, as I detailed in Coffee and Climate Change just 6 months ago, and we'll link to that, coffee and the countries and the people that produce it, it's all in, the whole system's in peril. It's fine to celebrate adaptation measures like mushroom coffee, legume coffee, beanless, or even synthetic coffee, and especially versions that reduce deforestation to the tune of 2 billion cups a day. But we're still leaving a net generation of farmers behind. Enter cocoa. Coffee and chocolate crops are related, not just in that I need them to survive, but in that they are extremely bitchy crops about temperature and water and soil conditions. Look, when we were all stuck at home for a long time ago, or a few years ago, many of us bought a fiddle leaf fig. I have two. One survived. But you may have noticed it's temperamental, right? But it doesn't hold a candle to crops like coffee and chocolate that have to be grown within, 20 degrees of the equator. And new, wild, unpredictable weather extremes do not for a good harvest make. Cocoa prices surged 136% between July 2022 and February 2024, thanks to both extra rain and drought across West Africa, a region which supplies 70% of the world's cocoa and where small farmers already face increasing poverty. Now, drought sucks, obviously. Watch Interstellar. But as anyone who has ever flooded their basement can tell you, excess water brings pests and various diseases. So harvests just keep falling short. It doesn't require an advanced economics degree, and I can say that with certainty because I do not have one, to understand why cocoa futures were recently at a 46-year high and then dropped again. The whole thing isn't tenable. Now, of course, chocolate is a complex supply chain, staffed in part, of course, by child labor, and there are actual deforestation regulations in some places now, and that's great. Chocolate is hella expensive at Wegmans checkout. Doesn't mean those smallholder farmers are making any more from huge conglomerate buyers or that their jobs are any easier. Can traditional coffee and chocolate be harvested elsewhere, you ask? Well, yeah, again, they're incredibly needy crops, so maybe. But if it were to be harvested elsewhere, there are still many already poverty-stricken farmers who will suddenly be without any income at all, which means they'll move elsewhere. Understand this. Since 1950, Ivory Coast has lost around 90% of its forests, while Ghana has lost around 65% over the same period. This has driven farmers to areas less suited to cocoa cultivation, like grasslands, increasing the amount of labor required and bringing further downside risks to the harvest. Now, as opposed to, say, vanilla, which is going through it, these crops are threatened perennially, now and on multiple fronts. So yes, we could possibly improve crop yields and biodiversity with more native shady trees, but is that going to improve income so much that farmers don't bail or just let miners use the land instead? Capitalism isn't going anywhere. So can we even push through something like a living income differential? Not if we don't talk about it. When you inject your shit-giving into everyday conversations about why Tony's and 2 shots of espresso are both $6 each now, you're going to back it up with details about supply chains and land use, among others, similar to conversations you might be more used to having about meat, corn, suburbs, and palm oil. So, if it's not the moment for coffee and chocolate, it's always a good time to talk about burgers, parking, housing, gas stoves. You get it. There's always a way in. It's farmers market season. Have you talked to any peach farmers in the past couple years? Or European farmers, like the ones that farm olives for olive oil, or sriracha producers in drought-stricken Mexico, or wheat growers? And sure, yeah, California's finishing up being flooded now, but do you remember what deep shit the Central Valley was in just 2 years ago? The same Central Valley that's responsible for 25% of the country's food production? The same Central Valley that's due to dry up again this fall? Coffee and chocolate harvests in West Africa might seem about as untouchable or unreachable for you as can be, but hey, look at this. There we were, a couple minutes ago, romanticizing Bruges and coffees and cappuccino, and here we are. There's always a way in. Get educated. We've got tons of resources that we can link to. Start conversations. Insert yourself into conversations. Don't be a bummer. grow your confidence, do it over and over again, and do it more widely. And it's going to make some people uncomfortable. Believe me. But what else is uncomfortable is not having coffee. If these are the new climate norms, talking about it needs to be our societal norms. We're never going to do enough, which is fucking dumb because we do have all the tools we need. We have made so much technical progress with clean energy and transportation, but our food and ethical systems are far, far behind. They're not simply indicators of the sacrifices we need to make, though some will certainly be some, like the ocean temperatures, coral reefs, and insurance markets, but much more ever-present delicacies that became dependencies and commodities and which are now so delicate again are leading indicators of what we're actually willing to acknowledge has already changed and what we are willing to do to affect the world back. We are well past farm to table now, friends. So if you see something, like a $7 Americano, say something. Here's your relevant action steps. Number 1, donate to support African farmers by increasing incomes and improving food security through the Alliance for a Green Africa. Number 2, volunteer to join the Coffee and Climate Network, an organization that actually connects stakeholders in coffee farming to create a climate-smart future. Number 3, get educated about regenerative agriculture that increases resilience using resources from climate farmers. Number 4, be heard about your eco-anxiety by connecting with others having similar feelings at a Climate Psychology Alliance Climate Cafe near you. And number 5, invest in deforestation-free investment options with deforestation-free funds. All the links are in your show notes. That's it for this week. If you've got feedback, ideas, questions, opinions, responses, email them to us at questions@importantnotimportant.com. There's hundreds of episodes, conversations, and essays you can listen to in your feed, and you can hit subscribe to get next week's straight away. To go deeper, of course, visit importantnotimportant.com. Thanks for giving a shit.